guys, Mergen Man 4 here, and what in the world has happened? I've been in utter shock since I watched the episode for the first time yesterday, and my mind's been reeling, and I can't stop thinking about it because this episode has so much going on, and it was hyped up beforehand. We were told, you thought the master reveal was big, just wait until this episode, and I thought, they can't top it. There's no way they can top it. And I was trying not to let myself get too excited, but I couldn't help it because I was like, what could it be that could possibly be bigger than the master, a bigger surprise than that? And I thought, well, now I'm just going to be disappointed because I've hyped myself up, but they were right. And despite the fact that there are certain things I'll get into later that I didn't know about, that had somehow gotten out and gotten around, but this is honestly, genuinely, the first time that I can remember that an episode of Doctor Who has featured some sort of reveal or, appearance, whatever, that has genuinely, completely shocked me and that I had zero idea was coming. And what a wonderful feeling that was. Because pretty much every other reveal, no matter how well they've been executed, I've heard something about it before the episode happens. I've heard some rumor, whether it be close to the episode airing or even months before. And this episode has not just one, but two major shockers. Who would have thought? Episode 5, just this innocent looking episode in the middle of the season, and it's become one of the biggest episodes ever. And I genuinely don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that. It's got a lot going on, and I will say, as a result of that, a lot of what happens in it's got a lot of really good stuff in it, but at the same time, I do feel like it does try to do a little bit too much, and as a result, it is a bit messy because of that. Although, upon second viewing, it did hold up a lot better. But, yeah, let's go into more details about it. Fugitive of the Judoon. This is one of the... It might have actually been the first thing that we knew about Series 12, was that the Judoon were coming back. And that was pretty cool for a couple of reasons. One that I was really excited about is that the new series barely has any recurring monsters of its own. I think only the Weeping Angels, the Ood, and the Silence have appeared in a significant role in more than 2 stories. And every other monster created for the new series has either only appeared in cameos after their first episode, like the Judoon, or have only appeared in a significant role in 2 episodes and then never come back again. And so this was pretty exciting because the Judoon, like I mentioned, they've only ever been in cameos since their first appearance in 2007's Smith and Jones. So this was pretty exciting, not just because it's adding another recurring alien to the new series, although, I mean, I guess not technically because it is only their second major appearance, but this is the only one that's been, like, so far apart. So that's the other reason why it's so significant. It's been 13 years since their first and previous major appearance. So that's a pretty big thing. And the Judoon are just really fun monsters. They've got a cool design with the rhino. They've got this really charming, funny kind of language that's always ending with, like, O's and stuff, like no Joe Po Ko Ro. They're just a whole lot of fun, and they're really well utilized here. Now, because of everything else that happens in the episode, they do end up getting a little bit sidelined ultimately, but they serve a good purpose, but they're not the point of the episode. But Chris Chibnall said they decided to bring the Judoon back because they had, a role that they really fit, and yeah, they really fit the role in this episode. They were great in it, and I'm really glad that they decided to bring the Judoon back rather than create some new alien monster or whatever, because they just fit it perfectly. And honestly, that's one of my biggest issues oftentimes with returning villains, particularly with Daleks and Cybermen. It's that they're kind of just there because they're recognizable. A lot of the times when these well-known monsters appear, it's not because they fit the story, it's just that people will know them, but the Judoon, they fit very naturally here, and it makes perfect sense to have brought them back for this, and they were great in it. Very enjoyable. But, as I said, yeah, they're just one of many things that this episode does. The next major thing, and this was the thing that really shocked me, Captain Jack Harkness is back in the show.
You miss me, right?
Fan favorite companion who everyone has been asking to come back ever since his last appearance in the show. I mean, he made a cameo in The End of Time, Part 2 in 2010, but his last significant appearance in the show was The Stolen Earth and Journey's End in 2008. So it's been a decade since his last appearance and 12 years since his last major role in the show. And he is back, and fans have been asking for him back for years. And every single year there are rumors that he's coming back. I did see rumors that he was back this season as well, but every single season there's rumors about that. Last season there were major rumors about him coming back, and they didn't come true. So I paid them no mind because I thought, oh, well, they're just the same rumors that always go around. And to be honest, I think they probably were. I think those rumors weren't actually based in the fact that Jack was coming back. I think they were just the standard run-of-the-mill, yearly, annual, predictable rumors. And this time they just happened to be correct. So that was pretty great. And here's the thing. Jack doesn't have a very significant role in this episode. In fact, his entire purpose is completely separate from the main plot of this episode. He's mainly there to set up something else later down the line. Which, it's great to see him back, but I'm also somewhat concerned. Because unlike the Judoon, his role in this episode, Captain Jack, he doesn't necessarily fit it. It didn't have to be Captain Jack. I can understand why you would want to bring Jack back, but if he doesn't come back later this season, I will be really disappointed because it will just feel like a complete waste of Jack's character and this major return, especially since Jack only interacts with the companions and never the Doctor, and I would think that was a complete and utter pointless waste to bring back such a significant character and not have them encounter the Doctor again. Especially when they tease us with Graham telling Jack that the Doctor's a woman now, and he's like, oh, I've got to see this. So here's the thing. I would automatically assume he's coming back for the finale, based off of that line, and even right before he teleports away, he says that he will be seeing the Doctor again, and when she needs him, he'll be there. So those things suggest that he is coming back later this season. But the things that make me unsure about it are, he also says maybe not soon. He says, I'll see her again, but maybe not soon. Which, if he is coming back in the finale, that's an odd line to put in. Unless you're trying to misdirect viewers from thinking he's coming back in the finale. So, hopefully that's the case. Also, John Barrowman said in an interview that he didn't actually get to meet Jodie Whittaker properly, which he could very well just be lying to protect the secret of him coming back in the finale, which again I hope is what's happening. Now there is a bit of evidence towards him coming back that's outside of the show, which hopefully turns out to be true, in that while he was filming Doctor Who, to cover it up while he was in Cardiff, he was saying that he was doing renovations to his flat there, and then he, to actually make sure people believed him. He actually did go through with the renovations, but he was there for a few weeks doing them, and if this is his only appearance in the season, he definitely didn't need a few weeks, because he's maybe in 6 minutes of the episode, 5-6 minutes or so. Like, it's not a lot. It's not a big role. And he was only ever in one set, so all his stuff would easily be done within a couple of days. So he would not have needed to be in Cardiff for a few weeks if it was just this episode. So we'll see. All I'll say is, if he does come back later this season, then I think his inclusion in this episode is great. If he doesn't come back, then I find his inclusion in this episode extremely underwhelming and ultimately pointless. So we'll have to wait and see on that front. The other thing too that kind of ties into that is the companions this week they don't really have a lot to do. Like Captain Jack, they're pretty much completely separate from the Judoon plot. Graham doesn't even meet a Judoon in the episode, I don't think, because he gets teleported away to where Jack is pretty much straight away. But yeah, pretty much the companions only really exist to get the exposition from Jack and later deliver it to the Doctor. So again, the three companions kind of isn't working out. So we've still got half the season to go. Hopefully that can deal with it a bit better. But yeah, again, another episode where we really didn't need three companions. And to be honest, the companions themselves are superfluous to the story anyway. They're just there for the purposes of Jack to have someone to talk to. So yeah, and in that regard, because Jack doesn't have any direct involvement with the Judoon stuff, it does feel kind of awkward because it didn't have to be in this episode. It could have been in any episode. It didn't really matter that it was this episode. So that's... I'm kind of iffy about that. But again, we'll have to see where it goes. Either way though, kudos to them for keeping it an actual proper secret and giving that massive shock and surprise. I audibly shouted in surprise when he popped up. It's such a great moment. The music, the pacing of it, it's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So hopefully we can see Jack again. But anyway, back to the main Judoon plot. A major fan favorite character. It's crazy when a major fan favorite character is returning to the show for the first time in over a decade, and that's not even the biggest thing in the episode. That's crazy. So, the Fugitive is actually this character called Ruth. She's a tour guide, and this episode did a really good job of misdirecting from her. Because here's the thing. There had been rumors months ago that the Timeless Child was going to actually be Ruth. Ruth was going to be revealed to be an incarnation of the Doctor prior to the first Doctor, which seemed absolutely crazy. And while it didn't entirely come true, now it might depending how the rest of the season plays out, but as of this episode, all that we know is that Ruth was actually an incarnation of the Doctor. We don't know where in the Doctor's timeline. We don't know necessarily if it connects to the Timeless Child, although it pretty much certainly will. But that rumor was spot on. But since they were teasing a big, reveal who's coming back, first off, it made people thinking, well, maybe Ruth is going to be revealed to be a different person, not the Doctor, because if it's a new incarnation of the Doctor, they're not coming back. So maybe it's going to be a new incarnation of the Master again. Maybe it's going to be the Rani. It's going to be Rassilon, Omega. Pretty much people were expecting a Time Lord. They were not expecting the Doctor necessarily, even because of the rumor, because the rumor seemed a little bit ridiculous. And so I think when they started promoting that somebody was coming back, people started to feel more secure in the thought that, oh, Ruth being an incarnation of the Doctor isn't actually correct. And I kind of fell into that. Especially when Captain Jack came back. And then I was like, oh, that's the character who's returning. So maybe Ruth isn't really, the Doctor or any Time Lord. It was basically just Captain Jack. And I gotta admit, because they're trying to do this misdirection where Ruth's husband, Lee, I think his name was, is actually the Fugitive, which he's actually Ruth's protector, because Ruth has used a chameleon arc to become human, so that she could hide there. But Lee is, fully aware of the situation. So we're led to believe that Lee's the fugitive, and because of the return of Captain Jack, and just the fact that the way that they were presenting it was actually pretty convincing, I did buy that Lee was actually the fugitive. And I was like, well, maybe, I guess the rumors were just wrong, and Ruth isn't really actually anybody all that important. She is just an innocent person. But no, she was not. And so this episode, despite even reading that rumor beforehand, I knew that rumor, and the episode still was able to pull the rug out from under me. So I gotta say, props to, I'm assuming it was Chris Chibnall who did that. So this episode was co-written by Vinny Patel and Chris Chibnall, and we don't know who wrote what bits, but I think it's pretty safe to assume that Chris Chibnall wrote the more continuity heavy stuff, like all this Ruth Doctor stuff, especially because it seems to tie into the series arc more. But yeah, good on them for doing that, because I knew that rumor beforehand, and they were able to convince me that that wasn't what was happening. So maybe that was the other part of the inclusion of Captain Jack. They knew it would throw people off the scent of Ruth. But yeah, Ruth eventually gets her identity back as the Doctor, and she reveals herself to be an incarnation of the Doctor. Our Doctor is obviously very confused, and they go into her TARDIS, which is a gorgeous console design, by the way, and they realize that neither of them remember the other, which doesn't make any sense, because one of them has to be in the other one's past, and neither of them can remember the other one, so something's off. And I gotta say, I think the actress's name is Jo Martin, who played Ruth in this episode. She was great as the Doctor. She was really good. Definitely a different kind of Doctor than we know. And honestly, if it weren't for the rumor saying that she would be pre-Hartnell, I would be 100% certain this is an alternate universe Doctor. Even watching the episode, those are the vibes I get. Alternate universe Doctor. She has a couple of things that remind me of the first Doctor. She wears these glasses. She doesn't really recognize or use the sonic screwdriver. Her TARDIS exterior is the same as the first Doctor's TARDIS exterior. And the interior is different, but it's reflective of the original TARDIS console. So if it weren't for the rumor that she'd be pre-Hartnell, I would automatically assume 100% she's an alternate universe Doctor, which I think would be pretty cool. I personally don't like the idea of pre-Hartnell incarnations. I think that's changing established continuity a little bit too much, and I think it's pretty contrived and forced if you have to do something revolving around, erasing the Doctor's memories of this major thing that happened. Also the fact that Ruth calls herself the Doctor, her TARDIS looks like a police box, those sorts of things that wouldn't line up if she was before Hartnell, unless, the memory got wiped. But then if her memory's wiped, then I think it's pretty pointless and dumb to just have the Doctor already become the Doctor, have the TARDIS as a police box, then have that reversed, and then go back to doing that same thing with the Doctors that we know. Like the Captain Jack stuff, but even more majorly here. We're going to have to wait and see on this one. It all depends where it goes and how it plays out. But yeah, she is the fugitive, and the Time Lords are looking for her. We don't know why. Obviously, for the 13th Doctor, relative to her, Gallifrey's gone again, and she mentions this to the Time Lord Gat, who comes for the Doctor. She's working with the Judoon to capture her. Certainly kind of puzzling. The fact that Gallifrey's there and there's other Time Lords looking for her, that kind of implies that it is from earlier in the Doctor's time stream. Also those reflections of the first Doctor I mentioned before. But whether or not it's actually literally this Doctor or an alternate universe Doctor, that remains to be seen. I hope it's an alternate universe Doctor, but we'll see. It all depends how it pans out. As it is in this, though, unlike the Jack Harkness stuff, I think separate from wherever it ends up going, just looking at how it is in this episode, I think this stuff is handled excellently, and Jo Martin, in the short time she has, she makes a really strong impression. Another thing, interestingly, is the end credits specifically do say introducing Jo Martin as the Doctor. So she really is the real deal, unless they're really pulling something. And again, alternate universe could technically be the real deal, but yeah, this episode just leaves so much to think about, so many questions. My mind is blown. People were saying that Chibnall played it way too safe in Series 11, and I have to be honest, I found that really refreshing. So I'm not super excited to be delving so much into continuity way like this soon. It seems it's so much whiplash for me anyway, but this is Chibnall's response. Yeah, he played it safe Series 11. Oh, well, look at this now. He's just done one of the biggest things ever done in Doctor Who history. Can't say he has no balls, because this is a risky thing. It's a massive thing. And, well, he's certainly making his mark on the show, that's for sure. Series 11 could have been described as forgettable. No way Series 12 is going to be forgotten. No way. It's making Doctor Who history, and wow. I thought Moffat went far with continuity. But, yeah, I guess that's generally my thoughts on Fugitive of the Judoon. A lot more than I was anticipating, and whatever else happens, whether this goes really, really well or really, really badly, depending on the rest of the season, I have to applaud Chibnall. Because this is so ambitious and such a crazy development. Whether for good or ill, this is big, and good on him for going big. So, yeah, like I said, I do have somewhat mixed feelings about it, because even though there are things like that I really, really like in the episode, it does feel a bit messy, because it feels like the episode only really exists to promote the arc that we're going to find out later in the season. But it's still like really enjoyable, and it's got some of the best twists and turns that Doctor Who has ever given us. And I don't think anyone is going to be forgetting this episode. Fugitive of the Judoon has left a mark. And wow. That's all I've got to say, wow. But yeah, I think because of that, I can't put it too highly, but it still does some pretty great stuff. And when I rewatched it, it did hold up better. It held together better than I thought it did. So I think I'm going to be giving it an 8 out of 10. That does put it as my second lowest story of Series 12 so far. I mean, we've only got 4 stories so far, but still better than the majority of Series 11 episodes. And yeah, Series 12 is doing pretty well so far. So I think the average of it now goes up to 7.25 out of 10. It's recovering quite well from Orphan 55. But yeah, we've got a lot more to come this season. Potentially the resolution of the Timeless Child arc, although I wouldn't be surprised if that bled into Series 13. I would be really surprised, completely baffled actually, if this new Doctor doesn't show up again in the finale in some capacity. I'm sure Captain Jack is probably coming back. There's a little part of me that's worried he isn't, but I am fairly confident he is. That would be great. And the lone Cyberman, that's the thing that Captain Jack told the companions about to tell the Doctor. What's the lone Cyberman all about? We knew the Cybermen were coming back, but it seems like they're going to be a lot more significant than we thought. So we'll have to see where this lone Cyberman thing leads. That was Fugitive of the Judoon, and next week we have Praxeus, written by Pete McTighe and co-written again by Chris Chibnall. And that looks pretty interesting. I'm disappointed we have so many Earth-based stories, but they've been pretty enjoyable, so I can't complain that much. Next week is on Earth again, but it looks like it's going to be another globe-trotting adventure, so that should be interesting. Because when Doctor Who's on Earth, it doesn't get out of Britain often enough, so that's exciting. But yeah, that's my thoughts and opinions on Fugitive of the Judoon. Please leave your thoughts down in the comments below. And yeah, Murgaman 4, over and out. and I'll see you next week with Praxeus.